everybody. Thanks for waiting while we reset. And Ernesto is going to join us once he transitions from musician to being the interviewee as well, or interviewer. So thank you, welcome again. Now we are onto our panel section of today with our amazing flamenco women here. And I'm just really excited that they agreed to do this, and not knowing who I am, or I don't know if ever doing anything at Trinity before, so I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and we will get started that way. So if you'd like to start, Alicia?
Sure. Are we talking just name? Or?
Yes, please introduce yourselves, and
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so my name is Aliesha Bryan. I'm super happy to be here, very honored, and welcome. Oh, can't hear. Thank you, Xianix. So my name is Aliesha Bryan. I'm a native New Yorker. Still can't hear.
Take the mic.
Bring it closer. Okay, third time's the charm, I hope. Can everyone hear me? No, it's not. That's why. Okay. Thank you. Can everyone hear me now? Yes, okay. Fourth time is the charm. So my name is Aliesha Bryan. I'm a native New Yorker. I'm a flamenco dancer. I would call myself a mover in general. I'm also a psychotherapist. Shall I pass it on? We can get to more later.
Good morning. My name is Xianix Barrera. I am also a native New Yorker. I am a flamenco dancer, teacher, choreographer, producer. I do it all.
3 native New Yorker flamencas. What? My name is Arielle Rosales. I am also a flamenca and New Yorker, a percussionist, a teaching artist, and a colleague of these wonderful women, and happy to be here today.
So if you could tell everyone here a little bit about yourself, how you got into flamenco, why you got into flamenco, that would be wonderful.
So there is a long story to that, and there is also a short story. I'm going to try and do the middling story. So like I said earlier, I would call myself a mover in general. That I think that's my nature. So I've been a dancer for as long as I can remember, but I didn't formally started learning to dance until I was about 15. And I started with classical ballet. That was a very interesting journey. It was a bit of a painful journey. And in my early 20s, I decided to step away from classical ballet because it was having some harmful effects on me physically and mentally. So I took a break. I thought I was taking a forever break. It turned out to be a break of about 3 months before my body woke up and said, you have to dance. This is who you are. And so I went on a little bit of an odyssey to find out what kind of dance I could do. And after trying many different styles, I ended up in flamenco. There are a number of episodes I can point to in my life where I saw flamenco, it spoke to me, and I put it away. And how old was I? Maybe I was about 25 or something like that. And I finally opened myself up to what flamenco was saying. And I pretty much haven't looked back since then.
Yes, so I'm also a mover. I started with cheerleading in the community with my pom-poms. And then I went to a junior high school that had the arts, and I was in dance. And I'll never forget, I auditioned for like the dance team, and I go into the dance studio. I'm like, Miss Green, did I make the dance team? And she was like, oh, let's see the name. My name wasn't on there. Just tell me my name wasn't on there. Anyway, so I put that away. And then in high school, I was a drummer in a marching band. I was the bass drummer. So I had that percussive, musical part of me, but I didn't get into flamenco until I was 20. I saw it on TV on Riverdance, the musical. Maria Pajes. I saw those long arms and I was like, what is that? And, you know, being raised in Washington Heights in New York, I didn't know that you could do things outside of school. I just knew whatever was offered in school. And until a friend was like, you can take dance classes. So I started taking dance classes. And about 3 months in, I was like, I think this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And since then, I've been going to Spain back and forth. And it's really in Spain where I really understood what I was getting into. Because here, it's more, I don't want to call it a hobby, but for some, it's a hobby because you can only really take class a few times a week. It's also much more expensive. But in Spain, it's a whole lifestyle. You know, you take dance classes, but then you go out to the streets and you'll see flamenco in the streets, in the bars, in the theater, in a peña, in a tablao. So, yes, that's my story.
This makes some love. Yes. Hi. I started very early here in New York at a settlement house music school called 3rd Street Music School Settlement in the East Village. My first teacher is a colleague of ours, Maya De Silva, who we dance with till this day. She's been around a while. Who introduced me to my mentor, her teacher, Andrea Del Conte, who kind of took me under her wing. I was first introduced at that music school. I started in piano and ballet, and I would watch the class from the back of the room. And at the time, I was very young, I was 5 years old. And at the time, my teachers, like in kindergarten and first grade, they all thought that I was mute because I didn't like to speak. I was very, very, very shy. I'm not anymore. And flamenco helped me because I saw a way to speak with your body. So when I lacked the verbal language, my body was learning how to speak regardless. Fast forward, I've had, I think all flamencos and flamencas can relate. There's this relationship, this tug and pull. So there were times, you know, I had more distance and wanted to do other things and, you know, kind of a, whatever, jack of all trades type of thing. Piano and jazz and musical theater and different styles of dance and how do I make all of that work, all these loves that I have. And it's over time of revisiting flamenco and learning and realizing that flamenco encompasses all the things that I love because it's so multifaceted and it's so rich in what it has to offer. And so I'm coming full circle, being able to do all of those things that felt scattered are now aligned thanks to this art form. And so I'm still here learning and doing it.
Thank you so much. I would love you all to elaborate a bit more on when you first got into flamenco, what you experienced, both like, you know, obviously the emotional part, but also just in general from peers, from people that you encountered, what was the reaction? Because, you know, everybody thinks, oh, flamenco, Spain. What do you, and then, you know, none of us here are white, so it's like, what did they say? What did they think? You know, I'd love you to talk about that a bit. Do you want to start, Arielle?
Yeah, so like I said, I was introduced to flamenco at an early age through the class. So that wasn't the first, it took a while to see like flamenco performance. And then I went to Spain for the first time when I was 16. So again, it's a very different experience, seeing it in its element. And all of those were like first times. They all have a different kind of spark of, ooh, what is this? Or that draw, the Duende. The experience, I mean, oh, it's such a loaded question. It's interesting because flamenco is a multicultural art form and we celebrate that, but that language is new in terms of embracing that language. because of the times that we're in, and the society is starting to have this language now, but when I first started, that was not the case. Definitely one way of what we saw a flamenco dancer to be. Always light-skinned, skinny, almost ballerina-like in physical appearance. I was told many times, gotta lose the weight, gotta look a certain way, or else, you know, literally lost opportunities just because of what my body looked like, and told that. Not like, I wonder, like literally told that. And so, yeah, but at the same time, seeing women that looked like me and going, but they're there, and that's what it's really about, right? But then also being told it's not enough, so it was like confusing. Still is, I would have to say. But at the same time, when you see, you know, the Concha Vargas and the Farrucas and like these women, and like it shatters the boundaries of color, of race, it's starting to change the boundaries of gender, of size, of age, you know, because we've talked about this too, some of our favorite artists are our elders. That's what, you know. So on one hand, it feels accessible and attainable because you do see the possibilities of it, but it's confusing and painful because you're often told the opposite. And then it's just like, which one is it, you know? I think it's changing, but it's in process. Nothing has landed by any means. And it's conversations like these to make sure we keep moving in that direction and hold more space with more care.
And I have one more question based on what you so eloquently and passionately spoke about. So because of that dichotomy, because of those contradictions that you keep seeing, what do you do to maintain your resolve, strength, and passion for what you do, regardless of the crazy contradictions that are constantly being placed in front of you?
For me, it's creating my own spaces. I've changed my approach from wanting. I don't want to butcher the saying, but yeah, I've heard it many times now. It's like the point is, instead of fighting for a seat at the table, make your own table, basically, you know? Yeah. And that's kind of, it's interesting. I kind of really went into my own circle and just kind of went, where am I being invited to? Where does it feel good? Where does it feel safe? And if it's outside of the box of what I thought it should be, I just kind of let that go and just go. And then all of a sudden, I reinvented myself as an artist, as a flamenca, ironically running away from it, thinking I guess I'm not a flamenca. And then now I'm respected more as a flamenca, ironically. So going like I'm gonna do my own thing until it makes sense to go back, kind of, and that's kind of where I'm at now. So yeah, finding the spaces that feel good, that I don't have to fight to be in. And sometimes, often, that means collaborations with things outside of flamenco. I'm a part of a trio called Souls of Duende, which is a percussive dance trio of flamenco, katak, and tap, with my colleagues Brenda Guja and Amanda Castro. And so, example, I get to practice my art form as a flamenca, but in this space that's kind of different. And by way of that, I feel so much more comfortable in my skin, and so I can go into the flamenco spaces as that kind of more evolved and grounded, and then present myself where it makes sense and where it fits, you know?
Thank you so much. Yes. Xianix.
It's so interesting to hear, because I don't want to speak for you, Aliesha, but I'm pretty sure you've also had to deal with the body part of it. So what attracted me to flamenco was not seeing a ballerina. If you see the true flamenco, I'm not talking commercial flamenco, which is what was in, Riverdance was a commercial. But you know what I mean? Like you'll see the flower, that's not flamenco, do you know? So when I saw the gitanas, you know, the Roma people, the gypsies, they got their fupa. We were just talking about the fupa. They got their fupa, and their hair is all out, and it's like, ole. And I was like, oh my God, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be. And then you get into that space, and I experienced that here, actually, not in Spain. And I was also, with my first teacher, you need to eat oatmeal. Lose some weight, eat oatmeal. Okay. I was like, oh, eat oatmeal. You know, and also not getting opportunities not because I wasn't a good dancer, but because my body did not fit in the costume that they had. So just like Arielle, well, I'm gonna make my own opportunities. You don't wanna hire me, then I will find my own space, and I will learn that way, you know? So there was that attraction to flamenco, to, just like Arielle, I was crazy shy, and I didn't talk, I didn't know how to communicate, but with dancing, with music, that was my way of talking. And flamenco is that, it's the dancers really were musicians first, you know, because we use our hands, we use our feet, we use body percussion. So to be able to use those two things to talk, then you can find your voice and you make your own path. So how do you do that dichotomy is by really knowing who you are, searching for who you are, and being comfortable in that, and kind of saying, forget that, I'm gonna do me. Take it or leave it, you know. So I think that's the way I approach flamenco.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
Are we as competitive as other flamencos?
I think I understood the gist of your question. Are you asking us if we find that we're competitive at an international level? And yeah, are we finding that weight is a concern, or is it more of an open field internationally?
And we will answer that question, but I would love Aliesha to share with us we will definitely get back to that, but I would love Aliesha to share her experiences first. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, ladies, for saying that. You said so much, and I have a lot of thoughts just kind of swirling around in my head, like, you know, what do I respond to? It's very interesting that we share this kind of not having a voice, not being able to speak. I was very much the same way growing up. I almost never spoke. Similarly, people thought I was mute. They thought it was very strange. I had a bit of a stutter that made me not want to speak. Even now, it's like a little bit difficult for me to, you know, get the words out of my mouth. But I did find that solace in my body. So where my voice couldn't project, I found that my body was doing a lot of speaking. So the thing with flamenco is that when I started, I did not want to perform. I did not want to do it seriously. I did not want to have it ruined, so to speak, the way that, you know, ballet had been ruined for me, and the way that some other dance styles had been ruined, you know, looking at more contemporary styles like Gram or Limon. And so I really wanted to do it for me. I wanted to just go to class. I wanted to be in the back of the studio and I just wanted to enjoy myself. When I think about it, it's actually Xianix. I don't know if you remember it this way, but Xianix is actually the person who gave me that push, because I did participate in a competition in 2016 after having done flamenco for, I think, about 8 years at that point. And I ended up winning the competition. I was not gonna enter the competition, you know? And Xianix was like, Aliesha, do it. And I did it. And then after, thank you. And you know, then after doing that competition, I had to really sit with myself and say, well, I did this thing. Am I really gonna go back to the back of the class? Am I really going to go back to this kind of invisibleness that I'd relegated myself to? And the answer was no. That was a hard question to answer because the minute I said, yes, I'm gonna do flamenco, I'm gonna dance, I'm gonna be visible, that's when the backlash started. When I was a student and I had no interest in participating really, like at a community level, I wanna say, it didn't really bother anyone because I was sort of participating in what was already constructed. But when I decided that I wanted to participate in a different way as my own person, that's when I discovered that there were people who did not find that favorable and who weren't interested in having me participate. And similar to what you were both saying, they were very clear. There was no innuendo, there wasn't, you know, having to interpret anybody's words. People were very clear that, you know, because I was Black, that I was not acceptable as a flamenco dancer. And then my weight fluctuates, so I've had people comment, you know, on my body size as well. Sometimes no, sometimes yes. And so I've had kind of a push and pull with flamenco because I love it, right? But when you get enough messages from people, sometimes you just say like, do I really want to deal with this? So I have had to deal with that ambivalence. I'm at a point now, I think, where similar to both of you, where I've created my own space. And that's another thing that I was hoping, you know, we would get to eventually. You know, when we look at the space that is there for flamenco, I feel like it's a very limited space. And so if we have people that say, this is what flamenco looks like, and this is what we will present here, and you don't fit that form, then I find that my choice, I didn't want to limit my choice to either I look like this or I don't, and I don't do it. So I had to get into a frame of mind where I said, well, I look like what I look like, I have the love for it, and I think I have the talent for it, so I'm going to create something else. And so similarly, I've been kind of in I call it a little bit hibernation, where I've sort of pulled back, and now I feel like I'm re-entering the space again, but as myself. I feel like I'm kind of babbling. Did I answer your question?
No, it's fabulous.
Okay.
It's incredible.
Keep going.
It's incredible.
Okay, can I respond to this
Yes,
young
please.
woman's question?
Yes, please.
I hope I am retaining what you said. Do I find that I'm competitive at an international level? I would say yes. I don't think I'm the best dancer by any means, not at all, but I do think that I can hold my own. I have performed at the international level. I plan to do more things at the international level. So I don't see anything really holding me back except maybe injury, right? And that's about it.
Could I follow up with what you had something? Sorry, number one, I got late. I need a little break, but I'm back. Did you have something? So I'm really interested in the idea of the resilience, not just the personal resilience, but the resilience that flamenco inspires in many people. In our case, no, I mean, I don't know if any of you have gypsy blood. I do not, but that's also another situation. And then at the same time, it doesn't matter where once it catches you, you can't escape. And you've been telling stories like you would have given up if it was something else way earlier. But flamenco keeps, talking to you, and it's one of the most difficult art forms for dance, for voice, for guitar. Forget about it.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, let me learn. I don't know what's easy. That's not gonna sound bad, but like
Triangle.
what's
Triangle.
that? Triangle is tough. it's the compass. No, that's not. It's the compass to be there anyway. So I'm really interested to hear maybe an anecdote, a little moment of that thing that say, okay, I'm going to throw the towel, and then you're like, no, flamenco comes knocking at your door again.
Who wants to go first?
And there might be a name, an influence, an inspiration that kind of brought you back, or maybe not. Maybe it's a personal experience.
Well, so I'm a teacher, right? And I tell my students that so in the beginner class, right? When I start a new semester, it's full. And I'm like, this is Survivor. You see this right here is packed. By the end of the year, there'll be 5 of you. Because you come in thinking, it's the triangle. And then you really get into it, and I teach with live music. I have my musicians come in once a month so that they can really experience what that is. And then you're like, holy fuck, what the hell? You know, so, and you have to have that bug because it keeps bringing you back, and many times you want to quit for whatever reason. And it keeps, bringing you back. I performed in Sevilla internationally, and it was, I was asked like 3 days before my birthday, and he's like, yeah, for your birthday, you can perform. And it was so bad. I did so badly. I was like, forget this, I'm done. I don't want to do it. And a few months later, come on, boo, I missed you. Come back. During the pandemic, we lost months and thousands of dollars in work. I was like Zoom expert, but, class, and the summer after the pandemic, what was that, 2021? I was like, I'm done. I don't want to dance anymore. And it was just, I was burnt out. I just needed a break. And then Flamenco goes, ven pa acá. Come back. Donde tú vas? And then now, I can't say anymore. I just had a baby. He's 1. But now I'm also at my body's bigger, my body is achy, my brain is occupied by this little being that I have to keep alive. So I'm also in this, like, maybe how we do it, like this. I'm gonna pull back. But I know flamenco, again, like glitter, right? You never can get rid of glitter.
Who's the better dancer?
Who?
Your kid or you?
Listen, great story. So Arielle,
I know why I'm asking.
we were rehearsing with Arielle, and before I even say that, I'll talk about this more later, but I performed until the end. I was out to here 10 months already, pregnant, performing. So I bring him with me to the classes and everything, and Arielle is ensayando, 7, 8, 9, and the baby goes for the first time.
Wow.
Where's the camera? A compás. Compás is the rhythm, no? The timing. And she's dancing, and he's like. And one day also, I go, ole. He goes, ole. So we did not have that opportunity to be incubated with flamenco, like the people of Spain and the Roma people, but he was, he's since the beginning, he's been marinating in the flamenco juices. So let's see if there's your antidote.
Yeah, I've had a lot. I love that. Was one of my favorite moments. It was such a good moment. Yeah, I've had a lot of those. The glitter, it's just stuck. For better or for worse, it's stuck. Yeah, I've had a lot of those. So like again, those like in my early 20s, and I was like, I'm gonna do musical theater. Then I get booked for Zorro the musical when they have flamenco dancers. And it's just like, oh, I can do musical theater and flamenco. Okay, I want to do jazz. Okay, so now I get a jazz band that's like, we need a flamenco dancer. Oh, okay, I could do jazz and flamenco. I want to be an improviser. Okay, I could comedy. Like all the things that I wanted to do, flamenco, there was a space for flamenco. And then I found all of those things, like I said, in the art form itself. And so, and then also just like personally, like when I feel like, times where I feel like I'm not good enough, or oh, I'm not a real flamenco dancer because I'm experimental, or I'm contemporary, or I do collaborations and stuff, and there's all of those conversations I'm constantly having. And the thing that I know is always there is when no one's looking and it's not about performing, and I just find myself like, and it's like, oh, there it is, And those are the moments that it's like, whatever happens professionally or hobby or the love of it or whatever it is, it's like nothing can take that away. We talk about this thing, a compás, like that's when you're like in the compás, in the rhythm. I walk through the streets in my commute often with a flamenco rhythm in my mind. Often in a 12 count. We do a 12 count rhythm a lot. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3. Like you can't get it out. You can't get it out. So sometimes I use that and that's my work and then sometimes it's just happening completely innately, not even thinking about it. And those are the moments that it's like, oh, nothing can take that away. And it goes back to that question of like, I've done the ancestry things and I'm all sorts of things. So I do think there's a little bit of gitana in there in the back pocket, but I'm not like, oh, I come from, I am gitana or anything like that. That's a whole separate thing of a whole confusing thing of like, where do we come from and what do I identify with? But it's interesting too, because above all else, because I'm so multicultural in my background, the one thing I'm like, I know I am this is a New Yorker. The first thing we said, I'm from New York, like I'm proud of that and I feel that. And the thing that I identify with being a New Yorker is the multicultural part.
That's why we're doing this here.
Yeah, and there's a direct commonality of my experience of being from this city and my experience of being a flamenca and what I understand that culture to be, because Gitano culture is multicultural from the beginning, Flamenco is a mix of different cultures and languages and musics and all sorts of things and movements and rhythms. So I think that commonality is where I feel like at home. I feel at home in the interconnectivity of all of who we are in this human experience. And that helps me feel like I'm a part of it and that we're all a part of it, really. It feels like home.
Aliesha.
Thank you. Yeah, that's true. It feels like home. When I was listening to you, I was thinking about something, and this is what helps remind me that flamenco is my home and that I'm at home in flamenco. Earlier when I was talking about the space for flamenco feeling limited, I was thinking that we do it with people, we do it with animals, right? Like something will get to its peak attractiveness, and it's usually, when they're still kind of young and they're pretty. Something will get to its peak attractiveness, and we try to keep it that way. And I think, what living thing in this world can stay exactly the same forever? To me, that doesn't really make any sense. And so when I think of flamenco and I think of giving up, I think about wanting a flamenco that gets older, a flamenco that gets more mature, and about letting myself grow and letting myself become more mature. There are many, many instances where I wanted to give up. I mean, like I was telling Carla earlier, probably when I made that first statement, it was, people were coming out of the woods to, tell me, not to do this. And, one of the first people that I spoke to about really wanting to pursue flamenco professionally, this happened in Seville. I don't know if you know this story, Xianix. It was when I was in Seville, which is in Andalusia. And I had just come out of the tablao. The performance was great. The manager said, let me talk to you. I heard you're a dancer. Let's jam. And we were talking, and he was like, do you really think that you can do this? And I said, yeah, sure, why not? Here I am. And, he kind of touched me, and he was like, look at your skin, like, you know, I can't sell you. You know, how am I going to market you? So, you know, the day after I had class, I went back to class and I couldn't do it. I like collapsed. This is the part I didn't tell you. Like I went in the hallway and I just collapsed and I just cried. And there was La Lupi, the famous La Lupi. She was giving a class in that school. And she was like, get up. You know, she was like, get up. And she reminded me of my place. She reminded me of the history of my ancestors within flamenco. And that's what initially got me to get back up. And I found people are really essential. Like people can break you down, but people will also pick you back up. So every time that I've been in a place where I want to give up, there's always someone who's like, Aliesha, do you want to do this performance? Aliesha, do you want to talk on this panel? You know, Aliesha, do you want to, you know, get in the studio and work on something? So there's always a call back. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I would like to move into the spirit of Duende and how your interpretation of that. You know, we're using Federico Garcia Lorca's beautiful breakdown of Duende, but as our base, but we all have our own understanding of it. So I would love to hear you all, what is Duende for you?
Yeah, my trio is called Souls of Duende. I had a studio called House of Duende. I have a workshop called Unleash Your Duende. I am obsessed with the concept of Duende. This is why this is very, very cool. So there's the theory of Duende, the concept of Duende, and then the practice of Duende. I don't know if you guys have already, did you guys already share the Lorca quote? If not, I have it right here, because I just shared it yesterday, because it's one of my favorite quotes. Okay, so this is from the actual theory, and the theory and play of the Duende. It's an essay by Federico Garcia Lorca. It's very long, beautiful read. It's originally in Spanish. There is an English translation. But the nitty-gritty quote, the Duende is not in the throat. The Duende surges up inside from the soles of the feet, meaning it's not a question of skill, but of a style that's truly alive, meaning it's in the veins, meaning it's of the most ancient culture of immediate creation. Immediate creation. So for me, Duende is, it's very hard to define. It's very personal, very up to interpretation. For me, it's very spiritual, so just like any other spiritual experience, it's personal and up to interpretation and subjective. For me, Duende, one, I believe, experiences Duende in many different ways. It doesn't have to be music or dance. It doesn't just have to be flamenco. It could be cooking. It could be writing. It can be many things. In the context of flamenco, as an example, it's when you're just, for me, completely present and flowing energetically, and in the moment and connected. And so what are you connected to? You could be connected to many things. You can focus on one thing to be connected to. You could be connected to many things at once. You could be connected to your body, connected to the ground, connected to the elements, connected to your higher power, connected to your ancestors, connected to the rhythm, connected to so many things. And it's within that connection and that flow of energy, flow of vibrations that is manifested into compás, into rhythm, into cante, into movement, into all of these things. And when those elements are coming together, the song, the rhythm, the music, the movement, the palmas, and you're locked in and you're letting the rhythm and the music take you, and it's no longer theory. Because as much as it's fascinating to theorize Duende, the essence of it is a practice. The essence of it is the doing and the experience of it. And, another a way I would describe it is, when your body is a vessel for something larger than yourself. When you're not thinking anymore, there's no space or time to think because you're just doing, and all of those things align. When performing, for example, when I feel I experienced Duende, I don't really remember what I did because it was just such an out-of-body experience. If I can experience Duende watching a show or listening to music, and you just get, the goosebumps and the hair in the back of your neck stands up, and it's a literal surge of energy. I get that feeling speaking about it, to be honest. Like, it's just this like something else, where like literal vibrations. And so flamenco being a percussive dance form, I look at percussion as this next level manifestation of those vibrations that come from us being alive and part of this entity that is this world, that is this life. And it gets that existential for me, and it gets that spiritual for me, and it gets that whoa, but that's how weighted this idea is and this experience is for me of Duende.
How do I follow that?
How do you do that?
How do I do that? I brought my phone with me. I'm glad I'm not the only one. And the reason I brought it with me is because I did write down a little bit what I think about Duende. So if you'll allow me, let's see if I can pull this up. Okay. Okay. Duende, that hard to describe thing that is so often referenced with respect to flamenco, and that, like most great fleeting things, escapes any definition that would bring it squarely down to earth. I tried to find comprehensible explanations from other personal experiences, but my search has led me back to Federico Garcia Lorca. I'm going to skip a little here. Okay, so earlier I mentioned that I'm also a psychotherapist, so I refer to something that psychologists call a flow state, which you also picked up on. So a person finds themselves in the flow state when they are engaged to the point of complete immersion in a challenging activity that requires their knowledge and creativity, allowing them to block out external problems and judgments. In the flow state, a person's awareness is limited to their own thoughts and activities. It's like being in a meditative state, and I can attest to this. And then just a little bit later, I said, a certain freedom happens there when the body is so engaged in internal freedom and that swirling of contents that can happen. It's kind of like I'm my own snow globe, and I've given myself a good shake to make the magic happen. It's impossible to leave those kinds of sessions. And that state of being in this zone of contentment is what I wish to bring. It's as if I can get there, maybe I can bring others with me, and we can all leave different and happier. Thank you. So, when I think of Duende, I think what most comes to mind is this idea of soulful resonance, as if you were a container, and there is an energy that surges up from within you. I'm not sure if it's something that happens or that, I don't know. If you're alone, I'm not sure if it's Duende. I'm not sure if it's something that happens when you're with people, because I think there's a really important aspect of being in community with people and having that energy surge up and having people experience it. I think there's an exchange there where everyone is feeling that same feeling, and you know when you feel it, right? And I think you spoke to it also, Arielle. It feels like it's reverberating. It feels like a vibration. Yeah, I would call it a vibration.
What they said, that's exactly it. I've always thought of it as I was evangelist at one point in my life. I know, and so they can say that when you get the Holy Spirit, that kind of. But when I would see it, I'm like, So for me, like, as flamenco practitioners, you are always brought up with this concept of duende. How do you explain it? And you don't really know until you experience it. And I think when I really experienced it was when I was pregnant with my baby. And it's because, sorry. Just thinking about it, I think it's because, again, how we all connect on the body. And when you're pregnant and you're out to here, it's okay and it's beautiful. It's embraced. And I wanted to dance to the very end because I wanted to experience that with my baby. And when I would get up, because I guess you can't really tell that I was pregnant when I was sitting, but when I would get up and the audience would be like, a 9-month big ass belly over here, and then you don't care. Those insecurities, those filters, ese complejo, ¿no? Complejo es insecurity, no? They're gone, and you can really flow, and you can vibrate, and you can connect to your body. And it's just about you listening to the cante, listening to the guitar, connecting with the floor. And the things that I would do when I was pregnant, that I would sit down, and then that connection it stopped, right? So I would be in the duende, and I would not remember what I did. But this energy, and I would turn, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's gonna fall. No, another turn, And then I would sit down, and I'd be like, oh my God. So it's like, okay, wait. So when you're up there and you're experiencing duende, you don't feel pain. Your shoes that don't fit in your feet that don't fit in your shoe because your foot is like, I gotta wear the Spanx, but the Spanx don't go over the belly, but then my button doesn't, but I don't wanna get new flamenco costumes, so all of that is gone. And then you are just really connecting, and you're with and my baby would never move. That for him was siesta. And then when I'm home with my feet up, like, que 7, 8, 9, 10, that's when he would, respond back with his duende. So I think that's really the only time that I think, experienced duende was being pregnant. And there's this project that I've had for maybe 2 years now in the back that wants to be created. And I was talking to a friend, and I said, I want to work on this thing. The pandemic, right? You have the time to work on the big things. And she's like, you have your own project going on. And that baby is taking all your creativity, which is why you're having trouble creating, because you're literally like putting his nails and his eyelashes and his hair. So, I think it was being a vessel and allowing those energies to come in, affect you, and then they go out, which is what's beautiful about Duende, is that it's not a solo experience. It's for you as the artist, but then the audience also feels it. And there have been times that I didn't realize, I guess, I was in Duende, and somebody would come up and said, you were somewhere else. Like, goosebumps, whatever. I was like, really? I guess, there comes a point that you do it so much that it's second nature, I guess. So, yeah. Sorry for the tears. My makeup is done.
she was, doing the moment of,
I love it.
having
This
the
is what
kid.
it's about. This is what it's about.
Yeah, right.
So I want to give you guys an opportunity to share with everybody projects that you're working on now, and invite them to come and participate if that's possible, or just to be on the lookout for when it comes. Oh, and we also talk about your classes that we'll be having here.
Yeah, you gotta work. It's not just talking here. You think about it.
big.
So yeah, we all have classes as part of this series, which you can check out with the schedule. I know mine, I don't know, Tuesday is mine. We all are offering something. Like I said, I have a trio, Souls of Duende, Flamenco Katak and Tap. Katak is a classical Indian dance. We all do percussive dance styles and mix it together. And we're gonna be at Joe's Pub next year. We're going to be at Chelsea Factory and a couple other things that are not announced yet. So you can check that out. Souls of Duende. Souls, S-O-L-E-S, like the bottom of the shoe. Clever. And Souls of Duende. I also drum. I do Afro-Brazilian percussion with a band called Batala New York. We play rhythms from Salvador, Bahia, Brazil. I do a lot of things with them. And then just freelance flamenco work all over the place and teaching. I do a lot more residencies than open classes, but I'm gonna pass it over. This one teaches many classes, so if you wanna learn more, Xianix Barrera.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna tell you about that project. Maybe it'll help me launch it. Okay, so there's this Japanese art form called kintsugi, right? Which is the mending of broken pottery with gold lacquer. And the concept is to, when you break a plate or a cup, usually what we do is throw it away. But with this art form, they find the beauty in those cracks. And then those cracks are even more brought to the forefront with gold lacquer. So it's the concept of you're broken, but you're not, forgotten. So, and with flamenco, there's many ways to, put that into concept. But I've been having a little bit of challenge. So maybe my ladies, maybe that's something we can do together. But I love that concept of kintsugi, and I actually heard it in a meditation. And I said that must be a great concept for flamenco. So, but yeah, I teach from 2-year-olds to, I think my most senior was 93. That's the beauty of flamenco as well. No matter how young, no matter how old, your size, your height, your ability, there's something in flamenco for you. So.
So yes, also teaching a class this coming week. I'll be teaching on Thursday, I believe, Thursday evening. And mine will actually be therapeutic dance themed. So it will definitely be a flamenco class, but I'm going to bring in elements of my practice as a therapist. So this is like the third time I'm saying it, I'm a therapist. But what I didn't say is that...
They're in New York.
Yeah,
They're in New York, and they're all potential clients. It's obvious. I'm not, because I'm a poet, so I'm saying all that.
Tell me about
Oh,
yourself.
God.
No, I won't do that. But what I didn't say is that there is a body orientation to my practice, so I'm a somatic experiencing practitioner. So I'll be bringing in elements of that. I do teach from time to time. I don't have a consistent class, but I like to go where I'm invited, so when people ask me to teach, generally, if I can make it work, I do. So I'm also working on a company. It's called Blackbird Dances. So my stage name is Pájaro Negro, Blackbird. And so that translation, Blackbird and Dances, name of the company, and also the name of my website if you want to check it out. It's in constant evolution, and I do mean constant. I add to it. I've been in the process of adding to it pretty much every day for the last few months. So there's that. I'm working on, again, speaking to what the boundaries of flamenco presentation are. I'm working on media, flamenco in media, so more video, sound, and hoping to get all of that rolled out within the next year. These things, they do take time. They certainly do, yeah. I also have a project that's been in the works during the pandemic. I won't really speak to that, but it is called Resonance. That's the working title of it. And I hope to have that rolled out within the next year or two also. What else is happening? This has become an annual thing. I participate in the Brooklyn Nutcracker. I was invited to choreograph the Spanish dance, which is known as Hot Chocolate. So I choreographed it and I also perform it, and that'll be happening this December. Should I talk about the workshop we're doing? We're doing that, right? It's at Lincoln Center.
Oh, the resident.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't mention that.
Yeah.
The three of us are participating in a choreographic workshop that will be presented in the context of the Flamenco Certamen USA, and that will be in October, so not too long from now. Yeah, I think that's it.
And I have to add something to this. I'll use this one. First of all, I didn't know they were doing a workshop together. So amazing. I was just like, can you be on our panel? Can you be on your panel separately? And so, but that's the first amazing thing. Well, not the first, one of the many that's happened today. The second thing that I wanted to say was that Xianix, you talked about kintsugi. We're doing a huge series on kintsugi. Yeah.
You
like,
see, this is Duende. Hello.
like
Hello.
huge, and
Okay, we'll talk.
we'll talk after.
Amazing.
But everybody here is welcome to that too. It's a series. We're doing 5 workshops starting at the end of October, going through November, and each one is a workshop in and of itself. So you get to make a kintsugi bowl and take it home with you. It's also going to be a discussion at the beginning by Heijin Fujimura. She is the business partner and wife of Makoto Fujimura, and she has an organization called Embers, and it talks about kintsugi and the theme of kintsugi and why the work of Embers is bringing women who have been sex trafficked and been abused to a place of wholeness again, and even though they're broken, they come together and are mended into something even more beautiful. And they use kintsugi as a theme for that. And so she'll be discussing at the beginning of that, and then Makoto Fujimura will be presenting on October 23rd. So you have, I'll share it with all of you. You have to come, you have to come participate in the workshops. But I had to say that because it was just like, hold on a minute, what?
I was looking at her, did you know that? It's like, no.
So do you want
That's, yeah, I'll just say a few wrap-up words as we're gonna have
3 minutes?
3 minutes?
3 minutes, yeah. Because they have to, two of our fabulous panel have to go and jump on a
Oh,
plane.
I thought we had 3 minutes for the next thing.
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
No.
No, sorry. Okay, I'll do 1 minute. Yeah, we have a 1 o'clock very special event. It's a masterclass by Antonio Rey, who, I don't know if anybody was yesterday at Roulette seeing him. He's a killer. He's a beast. He's so beautiful. So he'll be teaching a flamenco. You don't have to be a guitarist. You don't even have to be a musician, because it's going to be part teaching, part interview with me, his career, and all this. That's at 1. But this has been amazing. This is like the things you were saying about how flamenco breaks old stereotypes, and you can see an 85-year-old woman in a little lost town in Andalusia singing flamenco, and you're like what's going on? Or anybody from any race, any shape, and still it's a very it's a very personal thing, and at the same time we get this, oh no, you cannot do flamenco. How are you going to do flamenco if you're this or that? And then most of the greats of the flamenco were told that's not flamenco. So it's a very strange, and I just wanted to wrap it up saying that flamenco, because it's at the core of doing it, is an energetic art. Like Qigong, like martial arts, it's an energetic art, and it's an art of the highest magic. So it's dangerous. It's dangerous. You cannot play around with. Like you pay a very high price for getting in. Once you put your little foot up, you're gone. So it's a very, lo que yo le llamo el flamenco es el abismo lleno de abismos. It's an abyss full of abysses, or abysses, however you say that. So, and we love it. And we love you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ladies. It's been an honor.